before. He is a fourth felony offender. He has a parole eligibility date of March the 19th of 2020, an adjusted good time date of December the 17th of 2033, full term date of September the 16th of 2042. He is currently serving a 42-year sentence, 5-month and 29-day sentence on the charges of simple rape and armed robbery after having been revoked and resentenced. Is all of that accurate, Mr. Williams?
Yes, sir, it is.
Mr. Williams, your case has been assigned to Ms. Bonnie Jackson. She will be the person who commences our interview process with you. Would you please answer any questions she might have?
All right, Mr. Williams, how are you today?
I'm pretty good.
And could you sit up a little bit because your face is kind of, yeah, that's much better. How old are you, Mr. Williams?
I'm 68,
And how long have you been in prison on these charges?
22 years and a half,
22.5 years?
man.
Are you being seen at all by the mental health department at the prison?
From time to time, they'll call me.
Are you on any kind of medicine for mental health?
No, no, ma'am.
The reason I ask is that you were found not guilty by reason of insanity on a rape charge in 1977. You remember that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about what happened in this case that you're in prison for right now. Tell us a little bit about what happened. What did you do?
I was on my way to the store and the cars was coming, so I hit the sidewalk and I landed right by the woman's gate. And she said, "Where you going?" I said, "I'm going to the store." When she told me to come back. When I come back from the store, come to her house. And that's what I did.
Why would she want you to come back to her house, Mr. Williams?
But we were talking and she was excited that she was talking to me and she wanted me to come back.
Mr. Williams, the victim was 75 years old and she had Alzheimer's.
Yes, ma'am.
So she didn't know who she was, where she was, and I'm not sure she would have invited you into her home. So what happened?
I went back and the incident happened.
What incident?
Simple rape. They put a charge on me.
Oh, no, I'm not asking you what they put on you. I'm asking you, what did you do?
We had sex.
You were trying to have sex, or you were in the act of having sex with this woman who has Alzheimer's, and her son came in
Yes,
and
ma'am.
ended up pulling you off of her and calling the police. That's what happened.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Wood, I see that you haven't taken any program.
Well, when I first came to this camp and last year, I signed all the papers that I had to sign, but they never called me.
What about the other 20 years that you were in before you came here?
I didn't have anything to look forward to.
So you've never taken sex offender treatment?
No, ma'am.
And you've never taken any programs, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Where's your family?
Everybody's deceased.
Everybody?
Everybody but my little sister. She about to be 55 in December.
And where does she live?
She live in Gretna.
When's the last time you talked to her?
I guess about a month or so ago.
And what were you all talking about?
Uh,
About the hearing?
I was just calling the informer that I was all right. and needed some money.
You had a write-up in 21 for disobedience. What was that about? Do you remember?
I think it was about I wouldn't make up my bed. I stayed asleep, and they wrote me up.
Why wouldn't you make up your bed? You know that's the rule.
Yeah, I was asleep, and they just wrote me up.
One victim. Can you tell us anything about Mr. Williams?
Good morning, Mr. Jackson. Not a lot. He's only been here a little over a year at DCI itself. But the only thing I can tell you about him really is the same thing you noted, that he has no programming, no sex offender treatment or anything like that. So I really don't know much else about it.
Mr. Williams, I'm worried about you. You don't have a family to speak of. You don't have any place to go if you were to get out. And you haven't done anything to prepare yourself to get out because you haven't taken any programs. And I know that before you came to DCI, those 21 years you were in prison, I'm sure that you could have taken something.
I had one class I took. I think it was Alcoholics Anonymous.
Did you have a drinking problem?
Sort of, just occasional drinking.
Well, you have a high static 99. That's a risk factor for sex offenders. You haven't taken many programs. Your institutional record isn't very good. Solicit is poor. So it seems like over the last 20 years, you haven't been motivated to do a lot to help yourself. So you're not giving us a lot to work with today for us to help you.
I was just trying to finish up my time as much as I could.
Okay. Well, that just means you just stay in there. You're gonna finish it up.
Well,
But I mean, but you haven't taken anything to try to help yourself, try to improve yourself, to try to understand yourself. You just kind of are there and you don't seem motivated to do anything to help yourself.
well, I do things on my own as far as being contented.
Okay? There's something to be said for contentment. Ms. Marabella.
Thank you. Yes, I do. Mr. Williams, what is your physical condition? You have any ailments?
I'm disabled. Arthritis in my waist and fluid.
Okay, can you walk on your own or you walk with a walker?
I need a walker.
I'm thinking, so I see you've had 16 rule violations for contraband. What is the contraband? What was the contraband?
Smoking, related possession of tobacco.
That's all I have.
Was it all tobacco or was it Mojo or what?
No, tobacco.
Did you have a drug problem in addition to the alcohol you used to drink?
No, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Now we'll hear from Ms. Hay.
Yes, good morning again. The state opposes Mr. Williams' release based on his prior criminal history, which includes violence, prior rape, kidnapping, armed robberies, as well as the fact that he was on good time parole for armed robbery at the time that this offense took place. And of course, the nature of this offense, as well as the lack of programming. We do not believe that Mr. Williams has adequately prepared himself for any type of release. Therefore, we would oppose. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Day. We appreciate your comments.
Absolutely.
Mr. Williams, is there anything you'd like to say to the board before the board votes?
I'd like to have a chance to prove myself that I can do better.
Thank you very much, Mr. Williams. Is the board ready to vote? Ms. Jackson?
Williams, I wish that there was something we could do today to help you, but we really can't because you haven't done things to help yourself. You haven't taken any programs. You have poor institutional record. You don't have any family support. You don't have any means of taking care of yourself on the outside. So you've got a lot that you need to work on. If we were to let you out at this point, there is no way that you would make it. You would probably end up homeless. But you can't expect your sister to uproot her life and take you in. So you have no place to go. You don't have any prospects of work. You're disabled, and you haven't done a lot to help yourself. So unfortunately, today, my vote is going to have to be to deny you, but you need to start doing some things to help yourself. I'm sure the staff at DCI will help you get into programs, but you can't just sit around and not do anything to help yourself. So I want you to, have a different mindset, okay? But today my vote is to deny.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Mr. Freeman?
Likewise, I agree with Ms. Jackson. My vote is to deny.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Mr. Williams, your last comments were, I want a chance. We're going to give you that chance, and that chance is to get into some programs. You need to take sex offender treatment. You're never going to get out unless you take those programs and learn some things about your victim and learn some things about the consequences of your actions it had upon her and all of your other victims. You also need some substance abuse treatment, at least some classes to be able to help you out. And I think you probably need to see a mental health person while you're there, maybe to help you get motivated. But it's kind of all in your court. You're the one that needs to be able to do that. We can't help you unless you help yourself. And I think the whole board feels that. I mean, we want to see you succeed, but you haven't done very much to help yourself. So I hope that you can get some motivation and get into some programs. And once you've been able to do that, perhaps you can reapply and you might get a different verdict. But unless you do some things, I don't think you will. So good luck to you.
I put in for the program, but they never called me over this whole year.
Okay, well, I would suggest you continue to do that. Perhaps the warden can help you make sure you're making the correct applications to get you into those programs. So good luck to you, Mr. Williams.
All right.
Here is another hearing where it's just quite plain to me that the system failed all the victims. It's like mind blowing to me that he was a fourth felony offender. I mean, I guess, what can you do when you're a DA and you take a man to court for sexual assault and then a jury finds him not guilty by reason of insanity? That's scary. That happens in 1977. Then he does this armed robbery in 1981 where he pulls a weapon on a mother with her 2-year-old in the shopping cart. And this goes through the details of that incident. But remember, at the beginning, he was then paroled on this when he then committed the next offense, and he was revoked. And it's it's quite terrifying if you ask me. I mean, listening to his answers, it was great. I love when Miss Jackson has the cases, and he's like, "Well, I was driving. I went to the side. I was talking to her, and she said I should come back up, so I went back up, and Miss Jackson's like, she has Alzheimer's and was what? Was it 75 years old? She didn't even know, what was. Her son came in and pulled you off of her, and there's something. There's I think to any true crime fan, or you don't even have to be, but for someone who's younger and going after a 75-year-old woman with Alzheimer's, there's probably something indicating a little bit scary there, right? And he's done nothing in prison. He's done it's like just but what's scary, I think scarier, remember, is that he's got, even after this, and even after this being his fourth felony offense, and I guess the judge in sentencing wasn't allowed to take into consideration the fact that he had a sexual assault because of reason of insanity. So maybe he couldn't even take that into account in the sentencing, but he still had the armed robberies and was revoked. And then you might say, well, they still gave him a pretty long sentence, and they did for Louisiana. But his parole eligibility was 2020, and his good time is 2032. So he actually doesn't need to take another program. He'll be out in 8 years. Now, he will be, I guess, in 8 years, he's going to be 78. But, and maybe in his health condition and situation, he's going to be no threat to anyone. I don't know. But what a disturbing hearing. Now, I mean, if you want to go over what his crime was, that for this armed robbery. So the victim of the crime testified on February 25th, 1981, about 7 p.m. She was robbed at gunpoint while leaving the supermarket. She was accompanied by her 2-year-old son, who was seated in the shopping basket. Although it was dusk, the area was well lit, and Mrs. Morales was parked by the side of the building. As she approached her car, someone grabbed her shirt from behind, and when she turned around, her assailant shoved a small revolver in her face and demanded her purse. At first, she was stunned and could not respond, but later she surrendered her purse and the robber ran. The incident took about 4 minutes. And remember, he was paroled on this offense when he then committed this next offense. I wonder what the parole hearings looked like back then. Williams testified on his own behalf. His mother, sister, brother, and 3 friends testified for him. He stated the day after the robbery, he was with his friends when they saw a purse in the street. They did not want him to touch it, but he found it contained a wallet with a license, and he wanted to return it to the owner. That was his defense. Good luck with that, buddy. He had tried to phone her, but was unable to reach her. 3 of the witnesses confirmed his story, and all of the witnesses testified William was a person who did not have any friends and never went out at night. They described his behavior as strange and said he did not own a weapon. What does that even mean? I don't know. At his assignment error, I guess they were just trying to say if there was evidence and enough evidence to convict him. For these reasons, he assigned defendant conviction, sentence affirmed. But then he was paroled, and then he committed this crime. It's a scary crime and a scary hearing. There was just nothing there, and the way the hearing ended with him. I mean, he's not very bright to say, I've been asking for programs and I didn't get any, which I don't believe is true, but he says that in front of the warden, and the warden didn't even like, he's just like, okay, like he didn't even talk to him at the end of the hearing. This warden usually, I mean, pretty much always talks to the inmates at the end of the hearing, but he just didn't want any piece of him at this, after that. That's a big mistake, to lie about the warden's prison not offering programs and him asking for it. But not surprised. Thank you, Richard, for providing the info. And with that, I'll let you go.